Now, the president's been making headlines this week, but not necessarily for the right reasons. The Phala Phala farm theft has raised numerous concerns, not only among citizens, but globally. The president's alleged involvement in crime or illegalities, may have a serious impact on how we, as a country, are viewed by the world and our economy. This could even make or break South African investors. They may withdraw funding and opportunities if the matter is not dealt with soon. Economist Dr. Azar Jammine joins me now to discuss this along with other possible scenarios which may play out as a result of this. Thank you so much for your time, Doctor. We do appreciate it. I'm sure that you briefly heard what Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana had to say about the questions that were raised regarding the volatility when it comes to the rand after that report was released. And he's basically blaming the media, and he's saying that the media has caused some kind of hysteria. But that's not really the case. This is causing panic, isn't it?
Of course it is causing panic, and I would not blame the media. You can blame the financial markets, but how do you, they're all over the world. And effectively, what there is concern that there is no one obvious to take over leadership of the country after Ramaphosa, whom they can have confidence in. If anything, most of the people who stand in line to succeed him are tainted in some form or another. With a couple of exceptions, and those exceptions are not particularly well known in the overseas investment environment. Thirdly, I think there's a concern that this whole thing might have been orchestrated to some extent by opponents within the ANC, opponents of Ramaphosa within the ANC, who want to see a far more populist approach towards economic management of the country, which investors see as potentially quite damning for the future of the economy if they come into being. Ramaphosa has been seen as the champion of the kind of reforms that are needed to put an end to the declining trend of economic growth in South Africa. And so if he leaves, there is a concern that we will not see any progress in those structural reforms. And those reforms include fighting corruption and embarking upon major infrastructural investment to improve the service delivery of the country, and rectifying state-owned enterprises, possibly by getting private sector interests involved in helping the government to resolve the problems of those enterprises.
I think what was enticing, Dr. Azar, was the fact that President Cyril Ramaphosa was always seen to be at the forefront of rooting out corruption. And as much as this report is not binding and doesn't necessarily point exactly to something that the president has done wrong, yes, of course, he needs to answer to a lot. What do you think this is the message it's sending to investors? Because the message that we're getting out there is that the president might be corrupt, the president was involved in something he shouldn't have been involved in, and investors have always jumped on that the president has been that president to clean out corruption.
Well, certainly there is concern that Ramaphosa is not coming out of this particularly well. I think it's important to recognize that he is not being accused of corrupt activities. He's rather being accused of negligence, if one could call it that, and of the kind that one wouldn't expect from a president. And I suppose that certainly has knocked some of the confidence in him. But the fact is that he is a person who was head of the National Union of Mine Workers for many years. He was involved in negotiating a peaceful transition in the country in the 1990s. He was a leading businessman for many years, and then a deputy president. And the point is, he's gained a tremendous amount of experience. And the concern is that there is no one else in the wings who has been groomed to be able to take such a position and to be sufficiently well respected so that when he acts against corruption, that is believed. The fact is that he is not being accused of corruption. He is a billionaire in his own right and has no need to embark upon corrupt activities to enrich himself.
Dr. Azar, I just want to quickly go back to that soundbite from the finance minister. Do you think he is just being oblivious to the realities of what something like this could actually do to our rand and to the markets?
I don't think he's oblivious. I think he's just trying to embark upon damage control. The fact is that the rand has depreciated on a trade-weighted basis by some 4 to 5% as a result of this turmoil. And by the way, it's depreciated a lot more against the likes of the euro and the pound and other currencies than against the dollar, which itself has been quite weak this past week. And that depreciation is in itself going to, if it's sustained, going to cause inflation to increase quite a bit more than we expected, and force the Reserve Bank to carry on increasing interest rates a lot further. And it's also resulted in long-term interest rates rising considerably, which means that government is going to have to pay more on borrowing money in the future, on servicing its debt, which will leave it with less available to spend on critical social delivery. So already it stands to have detrimental effects on the economy. And of course, if Ramaphosa is moved out of office, the risk is that the rand could fall a lot further, with further inflationary implications and even higher interest rates, squeezing out the government's ability to spend money on other things other than interest even more than is the case right now.
Those are very worrying factors that you've mentioned. I actually wanted to ask you, the next couple of hours are going to be very crucial. Everybody is watching and trying to figure out what the next move is going to be from the ANC and from President Cyril Ramaphosa. It's going to be detrimental, isn't it, Azar, if the decision is taken that he should leave office?
Well, not exactly. It depends. The worst of all would be if he were to resign straight away. If there is a motion to proceed with the process of potential impeachment, I think there is a sense that there is a view that suggests that impeachment will not be that easy, that many within the ANC will come forward to support him and vote against impeachment. You need to go to Parliament for that to happen. Parliament is in recess right now and really only comes back again in February. And the entire process could take several months. And in the interim, a sense of stability could return. So for me, the real damage will be if he were to immediately resign. And I found it quite encouraging the other night to hear his spokesman suggesting that he is in discussions to ensure that whatever happens is in the interests of the country. In other words, it means that he is actually considering what the worst case scenario for the country would be. And if it is that, if the worst case scenario is him resigning right now, it might be that perception might encourage him to fight this, and with the hope that the impeachment process will not succeed. But of course, there's already been a lot of collateral damage, no question. And one of the big sources of damage would be for the ANC itself, because a lot of people were voting for the ANC simply because they had confidence in Ramaphosa himself, and the ANC stands to lose a lot of that vote going forward now.